Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. Welcome to our Friday live question and answer class. Please feel free to ask your questions at any time in the chat. You can just type them there and I'll answer them for you live. And that's what we'll spend most of our time on today. So you can ask about words that you're struggling with, sounds, other questions related to American accent or American English pronunciation. At the start, we're going to take a look at this phrase, what are we going to do? And we're going to talk about the different ways you can say it fluently and naturally in American English. So you may be familiar with our Real Talk series and our Real Talk course. This is a course and a series that I've made for you that talks about the difference between written language and spoken speech. So of course, when we're talking fluently, we don't stop after every word. Obviously, that would sound not very fluent, not connected. And it's one of the pitfalls of working on accent and pronunciation is that when you're trying to make sure that you're saying everything correctly, you may be overcorrecting. So you may be over-articulating sounds, making too much of a break between words, putting the end sounds on words where we would link them or drop them off. So our Real Talk series examines lots of different ways we link and reduce for fluent speech in English. It's also very helpful, even if it's not your goal to have an American accent, to understand how this happens, because when you're listening to English, it doesn't match what you've learned when you're reading and writing, and it doesn't necessarily match how you hear English spoken from other non-native speakers or in other places in the world. So understanding and listening, hearing how these links and reductions happen can be very useful. So just in this everyday phrase, what are we going to do? We have a couple of different things. First of all, what and are link together. And because of that, this T becomes a flap, and it sounds more like how we say the D in the middle of words. So if I'm saying middle or heading, bedding with Ds, I flap up my tongue and make that. My voice is on, it's like a light D sound. The same thing happens with T at the ends of words. So rather than what are, it sounds like what are, or in both professional and casual speech, we tend to also, the next reduction we have is that we reduce the R to more of an If I say, what are we doing? It's not wrong, but it does sound like perhaps I'm stressing on R, like, what are we doing? That sounds different than what are we doing? Normally are as a helping verb, or what are we going to do? Sorry, what are we going? So going to do, the verb comes later and the are is just the helping verb. So it's not very important. It's fast, it's unstressed. Therefore it gets reduced to an So rather than what are, we end up with whadder. I've rewritten that here as a single word because sometimes that helps you to pronounce it smoothly and naturally like an American would. Whadder, whadder. Happens both in professional, regular speech or in casual speech. And all I mean by this distinction is that I'll tell you when we get to the casual speech what you wouldn't necessarily do in the office, but it depends on who you're speaking with. Both of these are things you'll hear around you all of the time. So next we get to the we don't change that word at all. Going typically doesn't change when you're talking in the office, more professional level. But then the next change is that the to gets reduced. So first of all, the vowel oo becomes more of a vowel schwa. It sounds like And because I tend to link between going and to, I personally use another flap there. So often when we have a voiced NG sound, going to, what are we going to do? Going to. It's natural and easy to have the voice, just keep the voice on here and use that more of a D or more of a flap sound. We can also say, what are we going to? What are we going to do? To do. So if I'm saying just to do, to talk, to eat, I'll probably use a true T there. Both of these are acceptable. So either what are we going to do or what are we going to do? But typically I don't want what are we going to do. Again, because if I use that clear vowel oo, it sounds more like the word is stressed versus the reduced vowel that I use when the word is unstressed and fairly unimportant in the sentence. And then lastly, do doesn't change because it's stressed, so it needs the clear vowel. It has more length. It's all very quick till I get to do. What are we going to do? Da 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 da. Da 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 do. Okay, and then the only change in casual speech versus more professional speech is that going to or going to can change all the way down to gonna, where we just change the vowel and the word gonna. We're never gonna write that, but you hear how it's natural for me to use it even in a more professional context, such as teaching. So it's not that you can't say, what are we going to do in the office? Just in case it feels too casual to you, you can stick with going to or going to. Great. So our Real Talk course goes through lots of different phrases like this, breaks it down for you. It also teaches you how to use this technique when you're listening to TV and movies, to commercials, to be able to listen for those reductions, learn about how to use them, and sound more fluent, be able to speak quickly and naturally, and still be well understood by American listeners. So I hope this was helpful for you. Now we'll turn to your questions. Thanks for your patience as we covered that topic. Nice to see so many of you here today as well. So we have for our first question, the question about the word amputated. So let's write your word out, amputated. Amputated. So amputated has stress on the first syllable, am, and it has the same vowel as in I am, the word am, or as in apple, or I like to call that the black cat vowel. I slipped a little bit with my second part of a. So am, so this pu has a glide in it. So it's not poo, but pew, or pya, because it's actually a reduced vowel. So we're going to use a schwa there. Amputated. And then we have this first one is a true T, probably because we have secondary stress and the clear vowel A. So that's a diphthong. And then this one is going to be a flap, tated, because it's followed by an unstressed vowel, unstressed syllable, and it's between two vowels. So rewriting this, here we have the IPA symbols. I would think about it like am, pya, amputated. Yeah, okay, so hopefully that helps you. And we have a lot of subtleties there with the different sounds. To get more help for vowel sounds, the American T, what it does in different places, you can check out our Sounds of English course. It'll walk you through some of the rules and lessons there, as well as our American Accent 6-week course. It's a great resource for understanding some of these types of details for any word that you want to encounter, and also how to incorporate that into your own speech. Okay, and then your second question, when I riffed that line in my speech. So I think they're probably saying, actually not riffed, but that's a crack in the earth, or it doesn't have to be in the earth, it's just a separation or a crack. They're probably saying riffed, meaning like, I think that's sort of a riff, a musical riff. It's like a jazz, unplanned little ditty. So they're using that casually to probably mean when I included that or when I made that up while I was talking. Okay, and then we have a question about the word fantasy. Okay, and the question was, do we include the T or not? So just now when I said fantasy, I said it with the T. But often when we have an NT in the middle of a word, Americans won't say that T. So we might say fantasy. We might say internet rather than internet, international rather than international, winter rather than winter. So both are correct. Either fantasy, which would be fantasy, first syllable stress, or We can also just say fantasy. So the T here is optional, but if I do use a T, fantasy, this T will be a true T. So with NT, either leave the T off, like fantasy, or you need that little puff of air, fantasy. We're not going to say fantasy. We don't flap it and we don't stop it. Not fantasy, not fantasy, but fantasy or fantasy. So 2 options, and whatever's easiest for you, I say go ahead and do. Just notice that you will hear a mix from American speakers. Some leave the T off and some don't. Great question. Thank you so much. Okay. We have a question about this is all in of our control. This is in all of our control. Okay, sorry. Took me a while to parse that out. This is in all of our control. Okay, so your question was, you also had in and of themselves. So this is in all of our control. This is in, so that'll link together. This is in, so comes kind of a Z sound. This is in all of. Think of that as kind of all, the IPA would be all of. So I kind of think about all of our control. This is in all of our control. Yeah. If I'm saying all of our control, that sounds stressed. So here's another example of a reduction where it's actually going to sound more like all of our. So the our triphthong is going to become more of just the R diphthong. All of our control. This is in all of our control. Okay, that's pretty much what's going there on with that phrase. If I didn't get to some piece that you wanted to hear more detail of, let me know. And then the other one was in and of themselves. So we also say in and of itself, right? In and of themselves. In and of themselves. I almost ran out of room there. So the in and of gets really fast. So rather than in and of, it becomes more in and of. So kind of like in and of. In and of. So if there's anything here that an becomes just either just an n, in and, or there's a little bit kind of this red tent vowel, in and of themselves. In and of itself. Yeah, that's, of course, both in and of themselves and in and of itself. The reason that gets reduced is that those 3 words are really fast, and then my length comes on the second syllable of itself or themselves, in and of themselves. Great questions. Thank you. Those are really appropriate phrases for what's going on, or what we were talking about at the beginning of class, which was the kind of real talk fluent language. Okay. We have a question about new. So I do have a video for new. British English, they're going to say new, which sounds more like new. American English, we're just going to say new, which sounds more like new. So that's just a British and American dialect difference, whether or not we do that gliding yeah sound. So we do new. We have some words like few. We do the yeah glide, few. So I have several videos talking about this topic and telling you which words do which. So after class, I'll go in the details for this video and also in a comment, and I'll give you some links to go and explore those videos in more detail in case you have other questions about related words. But the simple answer is new, British, new, American for that particular word new. Thanks, good question. Okay, we have a question of about the word half. So for example, half an hour. Half an hour. So there's another example of our reduction of an, half an hour. So it sounds like half an hour. Half an hour. Stress on hour. So this an again gets reduced just to that syllabic n, half an hour, with maybe a little sound in there. And then if we're talking about just half, we just have same vowels for half, black cat vowel. Also half, notice even though it looks like there's a letter L, there's no sound really for that L. We just say half in American English. And just as vowel schwa, so it's just half. Just, again, can get reduced, that it's actually a stressed schwa. The can get reduced a little bit to just, where it's going to maybe be a little higher, a little like or like, just. If I'm saying it's just, then I'm going to have otherwise I'm going to use a reduced schwa or a slightly higher vowel. Just half. Half of it. We're going to link of and it. So your of, again, is your schwa and your V sound. So kind of thinking of it like half of it. In half of it, it's going to be stressed on half. Not half of it, but half of it. Half an hour, stressed on hour. Just half, stressed on half. And then halves, two halves of a whole. Again, it's just the same as if we could make a plural of the verb have. So V and Z, halves. There are two halves to every story. Yeah, great. Okay. So there's a little, not so little tutorial on half and halves. I do have some videos about those words as well that I can, again, put a link after class in the comments and in the description if you'd like to get even more help for those particular words. Thank you for that request. Okay, a question about whether there's a difference in the pronunciation between duel and duel. No. So duel like a fight and duel like two-part are both dual for syllable stress. So they sound like duel. And you'll notice that as I go from the oo to the duel, there's a little bit of a gliding w sound in there. I don't have to say it strongly, not duel, but just notice that it's natural when I'm moving from that rounded oo into the unrounded schwa, that there's a little bit of a glide there. Duel. I think I actually have a video about duel and duel, but that's a great question. Thank you. Nice questions today. Nice to see so many of you here. Let's see. We have a question about certainty. Great. So certainty. When I just said that now, certainty, I said both of the T sounds. But in connected speech, if I'm talking about with any certainty, what I'll probably do there is stop that first T. So rather than certainty, I'm not going to release the air. That's going to sound like certain. This vowel, there's really no, those vowel letters, there's really no sound for it. So we have certainty. And I will release that final T. That will be an aspirated T. So certainty. Yeah, so kind of no vowel sound before that N. So practicing just certain, lifting the tongue for the stop T and then going right into the N. And then you can just add a T at the end. Certainty. I was going to say this is not an example where we can leave that T out because certainly it doesn't work. We need that actual T to be able to hear that we're saying certainty. Certainly. Oh, there is no T in certainly. Certainly. We just do the same thing, but add ly instead of T. Okay, great. And then a follow-up question on all of the haves and halves. To have something, yeah. To have something. I'm pretty sure we don't do the L in that either. It's just the same as this kind of have. We'll have the proceeds. Let's double check that. Generally, that context is going to tell you what's being said there. So I'm going to use, I like the Oxford Learners dictionaries because they show you both British English and American English. Yeah, so no V sound in have, even though it's a little confusing because it's the same as the verb to that we have. Okay, great. The schwa sound. Okay, so we have a question about how to make the schwa sound. I'm going to refer you to my Vowels of English videos and my vowel schwa video, but I'll give you a brief overview here. It's helpful to be oriented to other vowel sounds and to become aware of kind of the shape of the mouth for vowel sounds. So up here in the front with the mouth closed, we can say the E sound, like in bead. And down here we have the ah sound, like in ba, body. And here in the middle is where we have the schwa sound, like in bud or buddy. So to make a schwa, your tongue needs to be just at rest in the middle. Shouldn't be touching up, shouldn't be all the way down, forward or back. It's just kind of resting. Your jaw shouldn't be tightly closed, nor should it be open. Also just kind of slightly open. And then if you turn your voice on while your tongue is resting there, that's the sound that you get. And you'll notice that American speakers, they say and I'm sure I've said it hundreds of times in this class alone. As I'm thinking, that's where my voice, if my voice comes on and I'm kind of filling with sound, that's where my tongue is at rest. In other languages, you may not have that resting tongue position because it's not necessarily the most efficient for your language, for the sounds that you need to make. But for us, schwa is right here in the center with a very relaxed tongue. And it can be helpful to kind of get oriented to other vowels. So you can check out my vowels playlist for other vowel sounds as well. But that's my advice for getting used to schwa. And then also becoming aware of where it is. So it's in many common words with lots of different spelling. It can be a like in was. It can be you like in just. It can be basically any of the vowels. It's often letter O like in come or does. So learning where it is, how it sounds, and kind of being able to have that as a home base for your English can be very helpful. I talk about this more in my Sounds of English course and also in my American Accent 6-week course. All of our online courses are on speechmodification.com, and they're either free or they're available for under $2. And they're really good for building a resource on some of the basics as well as moving through those more advanced topics like we talked about in the beginning of class today. Our Real Talk course can help you for fluent English as well. Thank you. That was a good question. Okay, we have a question about not that I can remember and not that long ago. So not that I can remember of, we probably wouldn't use the of there. So we would probably just say not that I can remember. We don't remember of something, we remember about it, or we do say not that I can think of, but it's more likely to be for remember, not that I can remember. And then other follow-up question to our new. So yes, this new as in I knew it, and this new have the same pronunciation, which again was new in American English or new in British English. Yes, and that's in the video that I'll be giving you the link for after class. We talk about the different spellings of new as well. Okay. Question about some phrases with I've. So first of all, I've heard of. So thinking about I've, what I think people tend to do there is they're thinking in their mind that it means I have, and then they might say something like I have, which is an okay reduction for itself, but for I've, we really just say the I and the V. So you might think about it like, even like the word I, just a way of fooling your mind to recognize the word I. This word I is okay, but then we have that V and that apostrophe. So it's like I've. This looks like IV, so that doesn't really help. So thinking just about that I diphthong with the V. I've heard of. I've moved on. The fact that I've, and it showed that. Okay, so a lot of phrases. I hope hearing me say those was helpful for you. If we have time at the end, I can come back and break those down a little bit more for you. Question about how many syllables do you pronounce in the word meander? So that has 3. Meander. And there's a little bit of a y sound between the me and the a, because the e vowel to the a vowel needs vowel to vowel linking. Meander. So 3 syllables to answer your question. And then we have a question about knowing how to know which syllable in a word is stressed. So this is a great question because it's really important for pronunciation. They will show you in the dictionary symbols in the IPA which syllable is stressed. So in meander, they would show me, and then there's a line before the stressed syllable, meander. You can also watch, so meander, and is stressed. You can also watch, one other hint is that, for example, in a word like banana, you can listen for where do you hear the clear vowel. So if I say banana slowly, and you think about it, you can actually hear, first I'm saying just a ba, then I have that a vowel, banana. The stressed syllable is usually longer and it has a clear vowel. So if you're listening, trying to hear the stress, that's what to listen for. In the dictionary, you'll see for the unstressed syllables, often there will be an upside down E, the schwa sound. There will be the line before the stressed syllable. And then again, there's another upside down E for the unstressed n of banana. Some dictionaries may do it differently. They might bold the stress syllable or put a different line after it. This is pretty typical, though, putting that stress marker before the stress syllable. A dictionary that, when you look it up, will have a guide to its symbols, and it'll explain how they demonstrate that, but they always do show the stress as well as the sounds in the word, because the pronunciation of a word is not just the sounds, but also the stress. For multisyllabic words with more than one syllable. Okay, wonderful. Okay, we'll do one final word and then we need to wrap up for today. And that word is gratitude. And I do have a video for this because I'm often talking about how much gratitude I have for you, the viewers, and for all of the wonderful questions and comments, all of the support that you give me and the channel. I really appreciate it. And I'd like to show you my gratitude. So gratitude has first syllable stress. You'll see the line before it in the dictionary. Letter A says the A sound, grati. This T is a flap, so it sounds like more like a D, grati. And then this letter I says an I sound, like an id, gratitude. And then this T, because it's followed by a clear vowel, maybe it has some secondary stress, is going to be a true T, like a t, like at the start of words. So gratitude. And with that, let me express my gratitude to all of you for being here and making this such a great class today. It was nice to see everyone, and thank you for your comments and questions. Do keep your requests and questions coming. And if you're watching this not live, you can leave a comment, ask your question, and I will direct you to resources, or I'll add your word to my list to cover in a future Word of the Day class. Channel members, those of you who have joined the channel, will have our Sunday members only class, and you can leave your questions and comments at any time throughout the week. I'll answer them for you live on Sundays. You can attend that class live, or you can just watch later and your questions will be answered, because that's one of the perks I like to offer to the channel members. Thanks so much for those of you who have subscribed to the channel. I really appreciate your support, and keep your questions and comments coming. Wonderful to see everyone here today, and I hope to see you again in tomorrow's Word of the Day class, as well as next Friday in our next live broadcast. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Thanks, everyone. Hope to see you again soon.